Okay, welcome everyone to episode 7 of Behind the Fox, along with my wife, Katie Feagans. I'm Josh Feagans, and today we're here with Jessica Breugelmans. Jessica is a wife, mother, local educator, politician, philanthropist, entrepreneur, you name it, Jessica's doing it. Most importantly for us today, Jessica's going to talk to us about her Curated Atlas luxury travel business. She's also going to talk to us a little bit about what has driven her in politics, what has driven her in charitable endeavors, and what she likes about the Fox Valley. If you stick around to the end, Jessica's going to tell us about the one destination she thinks everyone in the Fox Valley should travel to once in their lifetime. Jessica, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
So, you and I have known each other, and we've all known each other now for, God, it seems like 10 or 12 years. And I think we first met, believe me, correct me if I'm wrong, at a Geneva Community Chest event, which is pretty apropos because it seems like you're doing everything with charity these days.
That is definitely one of the first places that we met. I think we did a couple of events with them. And yes, and we also have kids of the same age. So there were also some pool play going on as well. So yeah.
Well, actually, I have to interject. We met at my friend's house, our friend's house, where she opened up a forum for concerned parents about who's getting involved in the school board, who's going to be shaping our children's education.
I remember that.
And you were so passionate. And I remember thinking, wow, this woman really has a great head on her shoulders. And I loved hearing your thoughts on that. So we'll have to ask you about that in a little bit too.
Thank you.
Well, I'm super excited to talk about the travel business because it's just an interesting area that we don't really see as much anymore. But before we get there, I do want to delve into your background. So you have a background in education to begin with, right? Why don't you explain that? So Jessica, just so you know, we have viewers and listeners, so we decided to call them our people. So our people are interested to learn what got you into education, what were you doing, and what did you see while you were in education?
Sure. Actually, I have a very diverse background, kind of as you saw when you were telling the story of all the different things that I get involved in. But originally, I actually went to school for business and accounting. And it wasn't until about 2007 when I decided to go back to school and get a master's in education. And it was something that I was interested in when I went to college the first time, but being a young person and very, driven and motivated, I went into an industry that would have a higher income potential than education. In 2007, when I decided to go back to school, I chose the master's in education. And it's so funny. I remember this was one of the first days of class, and my professor at university opened up a kindergarten book to read it to us. And I don't know if you remember library books, and they had that like cellophane on it.
And the smell.
The smell, yeah, all of that. And so she opened up that book, and just hearing that cellophane wrapper, and then also the way that she read that story to us, a bunch of adults, and hearing her tell that story to us just ignited something in me and reminded me of all the things I'm passionate about. And that's the younger generation and helping them and guiding them. And so I just knew that that was somewhere I wanted to be.
And so you engaged in, teaching young people. Where were you teaching at?
So I did my student teaching in a 6th grade classroom, actually, in Streamwood, which was incredibly eye-opening having that opportunity because growing up in Geneva, I've lived in Geneva since I was 9 years old. I went to school here. I went to high school here. And so teaching somewhere that really isn't that far away, but seeing the difference in that school district versus here locally was really eye-opening and interesting for me. And then here locally, I was actually most recently teaching STEM, K through 8 at St. Peter's in Geneva, which is actually the school I went to, which was kind of fun because I was teaching in the same school that my 8th grade teacher was still teaching at. So I got to work alongside her. And that was a really, really fun experience, especially when she was like, call me Jean. I was like, okay, Mrs. Van.
It's kind of like when you see your teachers outside of school and you're like, wait, you have a life? Like you eat lunch and dinner?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've also from time to time thrown your hat in the political ring. And one of the ways you did that was to run for Geneva School Board. And I imagine, your career in education and what you were looking at both in the schools around us, but also what your children were going through in Geneva or what have you, kind of motivated that. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So my foray into running for school board and politics in general came from education. So back in 2009, there was roughly 400 applicants for every one teaching job. I also have young kids. They're now 11 and 13, but back then they were itty bitty babies. And at that time, I was actually staying home. I was a stay-at-home mom. And selfishly, I started going to all the school board meetings. One, because when it was time to jump back into the working world, perhaps having those relationships and connectivity would help me find a job a little bit easier when there were so many applicants for every teaching position. Additionally, it was an opportunity to get out of the house, and keep my mind active, stay involved in the community. And after about 2 years of that is when I discovered that there were going to be a couple of seats open on the school board. And I was approached and they said, hey, why don't you consider doing this? I can't say politics was something that I was particularly involved in or interested in or really even knew much about at the time. So me being me, I'm a big researcher. I did a deep dive and really learned a lot about what it takes to be a school board member, how local government works, how decisions are made, how things are funded, how your tax dollars flow, right? And so it was something that I decided I had the time, I had the ability to do, and so I ran.
Well, and I think a continuing theme that I hope we get to go into for you is the way that you adjust. You see a need and you feel a motivation inside of you and you're like, I can do something. I want to do that. So then with the school board, what came next?
What came next? Well, a lot of learning came from that experience, some of which was actually realizing how few people understand how your local governments work, again, how those decisions are made, how things are funded. So getting involved with people, getting them out to vote, getting them involved civically, that was something that was really a passion of mine back then. And I had some ideas kind of in the back of my head of what that could possibly look like. And now, actually, I'm starting a new nonprofit called Geneva Common Ground. And in a world where politics really can be incredibly divisive, and it's something that people don't want to talk about, it's important to me that we are able to have those conversations, that we are able to have civic discussions, and that we are involved in our community in a number of ways. Maybe that's attending school board meetings. Maybe that's going to your city council meeting. It might just be voting, being an informed voter. So this nonprofit is really focused on bringing people together and doing good in our community and being able to have those civil conversations and discussions.
So with this new nonprofit, can you give us some insight? What are some of the things you're going to try to advance to engage us more civilly?
One of the things is I'd like to do probably about 6 events a year that are focused on the community. What can we do in order to help? What is the need? So this one is focused on Geneva. So what are the needs that Geneva has and how can we fill those? One of the first ones I'm thinking about is a back to school event. And how can we support the teachers, the students, the administrators? How can we do that? But then also, maybe we learn a little bit about how the funding works, how your property taxes work, how the funding flows, right? What your school board does. Invite people to participate, ask questions. And then additionally, I want to be able to break bread, right? And so when you break bread and have those kitchen table discussions, so another part of this would be having what I'm calling the civic table, where you'll get people together, we'll have a topic of discussion that might be something that people have different viewpoints on, but finding a way to listen and hear each other and maybe together come up with solutions that are best for everyone.
Where do you see this taking place? So if you're saying, a back to school event, how do you foresee that?
So ideally, just in local areas within Geneva, it's all about the community, right? So it's finding other, whether it be businesses or the park or places where people can gather and come together as a community.
I love this. Our common, I think, thread in this podcast is what do we all share in common? And it's our community, right? And how much we love it and we appreciate the people. And the fact that your neighbor can have a different opinion than you in a lot of ways, but we can still come together and be united.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
a beautiful plan. I love it.
Thank you.
So I'm sure this idea for this new non-for-profit, Geneva Common Ground, came from your experience in politics. And the most recent experience in politics was your run for Illinois State Senate, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And you were engaged in what they call a primary. So I'm sure
Yes.
most of our viewers, most of our people understand what that process, but just explain that process just from an overview standpoint, primarying as a Republican or a Democrat in Illinois.
Absolutely. So here in Illinois, the primary process really starts with getting your petition signed and deciding you're going to run. And, that would have been August is when I was able to go out and you get your petition signed. And what that means is you're going door to door, you're going to events, you're going to community, and you're getting enough signatures in order to get you on the ballot. Throughout.
Literally knocking on people's doors saying,
Absolutely.
Hey, I'm Jessica Breugelmans. I want to run for Illinois State Senate. Will you
Yes.
sign my petition?
Yes.
Meeting your neighbors, right?
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes, absolutely. And so you get enough signatures. In my case, I probably got about 2,000 signatures, I feel like, in order to get on the ballot. And then once you're on there, it's the election process. And in a primary, so you're running against, in my case, I am a Republican, and so I was running against other Republicans. We started off with 5 people who were running for an open Senate seat. Our current senator is retiring, and so there was a lot of interest in the seat for that reason. So 5 of us started for a number of reasons. Only 2 of us ended up on the ballot. And then you go through that entire election process where it's fundraising, it's raising money, it's getting your name out there, it's getting the awareness, it's opportunities to speak in front of people, share your perspective on the issues, everything. So knocking doors, so many doors. I think at last count, I knocked on somewhere around 5,000 doors within the district and just talking to people. So it was a great experience,
Going into it, did you have certain platforms that you wanted to focus on?
Absolutely. Always education. For me, everything goes back to the children and the future and education. I think if we can support our children, that's what's going to make our community stronger in the future. So everything always goes back to education for me.
Was there something that you found in the campaign, the primary, that just surprised you from a positive standpoint, something that gave you hope for the future?
Yes. I think one of the hardest things about politics is fundraising, asking for money, especially when you're running as a fiscal conservative, right? It's all about affordability. It's so expensive these days, whether it be gas or food or anything, right? And it was hard for me to wrap my head around asking people when they're already stretched, can you please also contribute to me and my run for state senate? But whether it is that large check that comes from a really good friend who was on the other side of the aisle as I am, but who believed in me, that was incredibly meaningful. But also the person who I've never met, who just saw a commercial or something about me and hand wrote a $10 check and mailed it actually from another state. That just warms your heart, right? That people care, that they want to support you, that they want to contribute. That was something that was really, really meaningful for me.
Well, and that they believe in you.
Yeah.
And that you will find a way to a better world,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
pretty great.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side, of course, is then, was there something that disappointed you about the process? Something that maybe surprised you and you walked away and you're like, that's got to change?
I can't say that it surprised me or, but I can say it's disappointing, and it's also the money and how much money is spent on even just a state Senate run is surprising and astronomical. But the part that was, I think, hardest for me is the groups that will get involved and the money they will spend outside of the candidates spend, and either in support of you or in some cases to attack you. And so that's the part that I think is hard to accept as a person who's really just out there trying to represent their community, represent people, and do good things for them.
So along that line, is there something that you wish that you could address that the other side got wrong?
That is a great question. I think what I wish we could address is when we take things out of context or we lead people to believe something different than what is actually the truth, right?
We face that in our world, ambulance chasers, you're in it for the money, this and that. And I think that becomes really something that feels defeatist, right? That it feels so offensive when at the end of the day, there is truth. And if we can get that truth out there, it unites people. It allows us to find common ground.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, and the name calling and these labels that people try to easily attach to others, I think it's part and parcel of the divisiveness that has come about in our politics. It's a winner take all type mentality. There's no compromise. There's no common ground, right? And so I'm sure that's what led you into your next endeavor with the not-for-profit. But you've been doing not-for-profit work for years, and, and you've been on boards, and you're presently the board chair for the Community Foundation of the Fox River Valley, right?
That is correct,
yes. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I love the Community Foundation. So what's great about them is I love their tagline. So it's connecting people who care with causes that matter. But what I love about it is that there's no competition. So there's a lot of nonprofits in the area, right? And what I love about the Community Foundation is that they're actually supporting other local nonprofits in addition to students, which is another thing that we do. But why would you give to, let's say, the Community Foundation versus, and I'll use CASA as an example because I know you were involved with CASA. Why would you give your $100 to the Community Foundation versus giving it directly to CASA? Well, what I love about the Community Foundation is that it's sustainable giving. And so how it works is those people who care, those donors, they give their money to the Community Foundation. We invest it. And so that initial $100 grows to $1,000 or more, right? And so then your gift is now sustainable and in perpetuity, something that you can continue to give even long after we're gone sometimes. So it's not taking money away from one organization. It's finding a sustainable way to support the entire community. So CASA is one of the recipients of our grants. We also have our scholarship program, which is, again, education. What got me involved at the Community Foundation, we actually give over $3 million a year in scholarships to kids up and down the Fox River Valley every single year. We give over $500,000 in grants to local nonprofits in the area, as well as our donors who have their own funds and they decide where their money is giving. So each year we're giving out around $10 million. So it's pretty amazing what goes on there. So.
And the entire $10 million, is that all through like interest accumulation? In other words, you're not attacking the principal of your gifts.
Usually not attacking the principal. Now, there are some instances in which you do, but for the most part, it is the interest. So the Community Foundation started over 75 years ago as the Aurora Foundation and has grown. And in fact, we're actually looking to expand now into the Elgin area as well. So right now we have, last meeting that I checked, we have over $160 million in investments that we are then able to use that return, that interest, to give back to the community in meaningful ways.
Well, and one of the ways that you're able to grow that money as well is through people setting up as part of their estate, which makes so much sense.
Yes, absolutely. So that's definitely an area where somebody will come in and they tell us what they want with their funds and how they want to impact the community. And we are obliged to follow that even beyond them. And so it's a really great opportunity for them to continue giving, or if their children maybe don't want to be as hands-on as they were, we can help support them. There's lots of different ways that people can give back. So it's a really good organization.
I think that's a critical thing I want to dig into a little bit just for a moment with the Community Foundation, because a lot of people out there going through their estate plans, doing trusts or wills, they might say, well, I don't have $1 million to give away. I don't have $250,000 to give away.
Right.
But with the Community Foundation's help and the framework that it's already established, people who want to give small gifts that can turn into large gifts over time, maybe $10,000 that funds a $1,000 scholarship in perpetuity, they can come to the Community Foundation and you can help them with that process, right?
Absolutely. And that's what's so great about it. Now, in today's dollars, a lot of our endowments are around $25,000 in order to have that sustainable in perpetuity. But even if you don't have that, you can provide your dollars to the Community Foundation's pool of resources, and they will invest them with everybody else's in the community, and those will continue to earn interest and build and still do good.
And by using the Community Foundation, people, individuals, their estates, they can take advantage of your not-for-profit framework. They don't have to go out and establish their own not-for-profit, right?
That is correct. That is 100% correct. And right now we've got, I think it's called the Illinois Gives Act, in where people can set up these funds, and it can actually only be done through donor advised funds, which you need a community foundation in order to do that. And they can actually get tax write-offs right now for doing that. So it's a great time right now if you do have, some money set aside that you want to give in the future. Well, maybe do it now because you'll get that tax write-off as well.
Well, and the vetting process that the Community Foundation puts the recipients through is a really critical part of that. I know from having worked with some of the recipients that, they were so impressed with that, but then also so proud to achieve, the status of Community Foundation believes in us.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. So the grant making process is, we have 2 rounds every year. And so people apply for grants, and we have a team of people who get together and they discuss. There are definitely frameworks in place in order to make sure that those dollars go out to a variety of institutions and a variety of causes. And so that is one amazing part of it. But then, like I mentioned, the scholarships, wow, that's the committee that I was a part of. And it's just so meaningful. And we have, at least 30 people, I want to say, who read these scholarships, who read these stories of these really amazing kids in our community, and have the hard decision of deciding who's going to get those scholarship dollars. I will say somewhere over 40% of our applicants do actually receive something, which is great. And also we have, I think it's over 300 scholarships at this point in time, might even be more than that. And a student can apply for all of those scholarships with one application. They're not applying to each of these individual applications, which can take a lot of time. So it's a great process. It's very well organized. Our team does an amazing job.
Someone wants to learn more information about the Community Foundation, either because they want to find a way to donate some money or
Yeah.
because they want to be involved in some of these scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
How do they get a hold of you guys?
Well, the Community Foundation of the Fox River Valley, we have a website. I would encourage them to go there. You can reach out. You can actually donate on there. You can see some of the funds, but also could always reach out with a phone call. Our CEO and president, Julie Chrisman, is amazing, and I know she would be happy to take anybody's phone call.
Wonderful. All right, so I want to transition now to a very exciting topic, and that's your new business. But first, I want to remind our viewers, if you like what you're hearing with Jessica and us, please make sure to hit subscribe and follow Behind the Fox. More back now with Jessica. So Jessica, it's interesting. For years, everyone got used to Expedia and Travelocity and Vendango or whatever the heck they were using online.
Yeah.
But back in the 70s or 80s and before, you used to travel by going down to the local, strip mall, finding your travel agent and saying, hey, I want to go here. Let's make it happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're trying to bring some of that experience back, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Absolutely.
So tell us, what is your brainchild in this? What is Curated Atlas?
What is Curated Atlas? Oh, okay. Well, the Curated Atlas is a luxury travel advisory that is focused on meaningful travel. And what that means to me is really getting to know my clients and understanding their goals, their likes, their dislikes, their preferences, and helping them curate a trip, a vacation that is truly custom tailored to them. That's the basics of it. But what I'll say is, you mentioned back in the day, right, where you would go down and meet your local travel advisor and maybe flip through the books and things. But now we do. We have the internet, right? We have AI. Why use a travel advisor when theoretically you could do it all by yourself, right? I think the most meaningful part of it is the relationships that somebody brings and the expertise. You could research for hours and hours and hours and hours and not even necessarily know that what you came up with was, I don't want to say the best because there's no such best, right? But you want to make sure that your time away and that your dollars that you're spending are being well spent, right? And I think having a partner to help you is really, really important, especially when there's a plethora of information on the internet these days.
And I think there are two really big points that I want to make sure we cover. The first one is, how does cost come into play with hiring you to help someone with their vacation?
Okay.
And then the other part to it is the relationship part. And full disclosure, Jessica helped us very recently with a very special trip for our turning 11-year-old son. And so I can vouch for what a wonderful experience it was.
Thank you.
And how, your suggestions and your thoughtfulness as it related to us in particular really made that trip so special. And then the other part to it that I want to make sure is when things go wrong and you have a person to talk to give that advice, it makes all the difference. So
Absolutely.
kind of a multi-part question there.
Wow.
Sorry.
Okay. I'll try to remember all of that. The first part of that was you talked a little bit about the cost of it. So let's start there. I think that's a misconception I actually had when I was planning trips for myself or for me and my husband or my family. And I made the assumption that it's going to cost more to use a travel advisor, right? In most cases, it doesn't. It's the same price, whether you book through me or you book through somebody else. That's not always the case. In some cases, I do have to charge a fee in order to help somebody curate their trip. And that just might be because they want me to walk them through, let's use somewhere in Europe as an example, a city in Europe, any city in Europe. and they want to know, okay, where should I go in the morning, in the afternoon? What activities should I do? Where should I book this? What's the best restaurant? All of that takes a lot of time. And a lot of those experiences are, as a travel advisor, you're not compensated for. So in those situations, I do charge a nominal fee in order to help people plan those trips. But generally, how it works is we actually earn a commission from the hotels, from some of the experiences, not all of them, that we book for you. And again, you would think it's more expensive that way if you're earning a commission. No, generally it's not. And in fact, one of the things that I make sure to do is check, okay, if I were to book just myself directly versus booking through some of the ways that I can book, is it the same? Is it comparable? And letting them know that sometimes it's actually less expensive. And most times we can actually provide additional amenities that you can't get yourself. So there is a little bit of a benefit of going through us as well.
Well, and you're going into the wider world, but you're supporting local.
Yeah.
Which is pretty great.
That is true. That is true.
So before we get back into Katie's questions, because I think we got to unplug all those a little bit, I always say to people, you don't know what you don't know, right? So, I mean, it sounds kind of like a silly thing to say, but there's such truth to that. So if I'm looking to book a trip, like you helped us with a trip to Disney World, and we've been to Disney World 3 or 4 times, but that experience kind of changes so much over time. It shifts.
It does.
You know, there used to be fast passes, now there are lightning passes and premier lightning passes and, you know, all these other different types of things. So going to someone like you and getting that experience about, okay, this is how you do Disney right. If this is what you want to get out of it. This is how you do Paris right. If this is what you want to get out of it.
Yeah.
As opposed to just going on Expedia and hitting the button for the hotel and the button for the airline and just say, okay, let's wing it when we get there and just, you know, go around and eat some pastries.
Yeah.
I think to know, to have someone who knows where to go, what to do, how to make the experience special is such a benefit and probably well worth your fee regardless.
Sounds good. I mean, that's a great plug. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I would agree with you. And look, the world is massive, huge, right? There are so many things that you can see on Expedia, on Travel, TripAdvisor, you know, Travelocity, Costco, you know, whatever it may be, right? But how do you know that it's going to be a good experience? And can I tell you that there's not a equally good experience or better experience outside of what I'm advising for you? There's an infinite number of options out there. But the benefit of going through someone like myself is that we have developed these relationships with these suppliers over time. So I'm part of a consortium. It's called Virtuoso. And we have contacts in each of those locations. So I think you mentioned when things go wrong, right? That was kind of one of your questions. That's one of the main benefits of having someone like me is when something goes wrong, or maybe it just doesn't meet your expectations or you've changed your mind once you've gotten there, having somebody back home who can help support you while you're still enjoying your vacation is absolutely important. And when something goes wrong in those locations, I'm not just calling a 1-800 number. I'm calling a manager, a relationship manager, somebody who I've met over time who is going to do their best in order to help my client. I had a situation recently where a client was not happy with their room, and I advocated on their behalf, and they were at a large hotel chain type property. Coincidentally, one they chose that I did not recommend. But that being said, they had an experience there that they didn't love. And because of those relationships that I've built over time, we were able to get them moved. We were able to get them funds back. And so it's those relationships and that advocacy on your behalf that I think is so incredibly important. I myself, I didn't know about Disney travel planners for the longest time. I've just been somebody who's loved Disney for a very long time, and people would call me and hey, tell me about Disney. And I'd be like, haha, that's really cute. Are you going to take me out for coffee or a glass of wine? Because this is going to take 2 hours to talk about, right? Disney is a thing. And throughout that process, I actually discovered a friend who was a Disney travel advisor. And believe it or not, even though I had been Disney probably as many times as you or more, I used her as a travel advisor when I traveled. Why? Because when something goes wrong, I was able to focus on spending time with my husband and kids, and she took care of the fact that actually, I think it was the same issue you had.
Oh, no.
Or no, you didn't do the photo. That was somebody else. The photo pass wasn't working.
Oh.
And I was able to call her instead of sitting on a 1-800 number with Disney for 2 hours. She handled it. And I was able to have an amazing dinner with my husband and kids when normally I would have been pulled away and busy doing something else. So I think that's one of the most important aspects of having somebody to advocate and support for you.
I think the details are overwhelming with travel. And making sure that you're, covering this or that you don't have to worry about this. And your insights on those are particularly helpful.
I'm definitely a detail person.
So, it's unusual that we're not really talking about Fox Valley type venues, but we're going to deviate here and talk outside the Fox Valley, Jessica.
Yeah.
First question, where are your clients going the most sought after destination in 2026?
Right now, Costa Rica.
Ooh, yes.
Very, very popular right now. I think I've got 4 clients booked currently there. So it's a great place to go for families. A lot of adventure, a lot of activity. Just everything from hot springs and volcanoes to surfing at the beach and zip lining and rappelling down waterfalls and just whitewater rafting, like just so much that you can do there. It's a really beautiful country. So that's top one right now.
Well, and the blue zones and safe and wonderful food and all those things.
Yeah.
Okay. So where do you think there is an underrated destination that you would love to highlight?
So I actually just sent someone here and I've not been yet. And this is the first time I've sold this location. It was Portugal.
Ooh, I want to go to Portugal.
And what's interesting about Portugal is it's just this tiny sliver of a country next to Spain, right? And I feel like most people either do it on a cruise or as an add-on to Spain. But when I started researching Portugal, you can spend a week or 2 in Portugal itself. It's got everything from wine regions to rivers to, did you know they have actually the #1 surfing in the world? That is where some sort of world surfing competition is off the shores of Portugal, which I didn't know until I started researching it. So the city, the street art, it's just, there's so much to do there. And the culture is incredibly different from Spain, which in the language too. So that's one that I think is underrated, but is quickly becoming known and more popular.
Flipping that. So what destination do you see clients wanting to go that is overrated?
Well, it's funny because you actually already mentioned it earlier, and it's Paris. Everybody wants to go to Paris, right? That's the I guess the American dream, right? To get to Paris at some point in your life. And don't get me wrong, one of the times I was in Paris and we rented a little Verbo and we were sitting out there, my mom and I actually, and all of a sudden the Eiffel Tower started sparkling at night, which I didn't know that it did at that time. It was magical and it was beautiful. And it's definitely a city that if you can, it's wonderful to experience. But why do I find it overrated? Every time I walk into a restaurant or a store in Paris and I start speaking my terrible French, they immediately switch to English. And so I feel like it's like any big city, right? Or when I was walking the Champs-Élysées and there's a big Victoria's Secret. For me, that's just not my kind of travel. I guess big city is just not my thing, kind of whether it's London, Paris, Rome, all of them. I prefer to get more out into the smaller towns, the culture, and really be immersive. So for me, that's why I think Paris is a little overrated.
What is your most memorable trip that you've taken?
Oh my gosh. That's a hard one.
I was going to say, well, maybe two. Two are fine.
I think for me, it's not the most memorable trip so much as it is a incredibly memorable experience from each and every trip. So whether it's when I was younger and traveling with my family, and now, not this most recent spring break, but the spring break before, we took our kids to San Francisco because that's how old I was when my kids took me there. And I just had really fond memories of going there with my parents. And so it's having some memory that sticks out from each and every trip, as opposed to one big, massive, amazing, memorable trip. So I don't really have one answer. I mean, the first time I went to Europe, to London and Paris, I actually went by myself, and that was quite an experience. And so obviously that stands out. Lots of trips with my parents, stand out. The first time I ever traveled internationally was Costa Rica, believe it or not, when I was younger with them. And now with my kids, there's so many things that I love doing. Disney is still one of our favorite. But yeah, Alaska. Oh my gosh, we just did that last year with the family on a multi-generational trip celebrating my parents' 60th anniversary.
Tell me in the warm-ish weather.
It was. It was, yes. Although I did have a hat on for half of it. But yeah, no, it was really good. That was a place that you hear people say constantly, oh, that was the most amazing trip. Across the board, I'd say most people say that to me. And I was like, really? Oh, and I hadn't been yet. And then I went and, oh, now I get it. It's just so stunning, so beautiful, so amazing. The glaciers.
What are the travel trends you're seeing right now that surprise you the most? Where people are going that you're just like, I wouldn't have thought about that besides Portugal.
Besides Portugal, travel trends. I don't know if it's necessarily a destination so much as it is people who are traveling in the shoulder season, which is not in the height of, Europe in summer or, whatever it may be. Maybe they're going in the fall or the spring when crowds are a little bit lower, prices are a little bit lower. I think that's a massive trend right now. People are willing to take time from school, take time from work in order to have those experiences, because especially when you're looking at family, I talk about families a lot because I have a family, right? You only have 18 years with those kiddos before they're gone, right? And so I think yes, I'm an educator. Education is incredibly important. But I think also education out in the world and having time together as a family is equally important.
How far in advance should someone be contacting you to plan a special trip?
That is a really good question.
Not 2 weeks before, like
some people, nobody sitting here. Nope. You know what is really, I'm a big planner. I'm planning things a year in advance. That's kind of my MO. The majority of people don't. Actually, the majority of people are like yourselves who kind of planned it last minute. And that's exciting and fun. I think it can be exciting and fun both ways. If you pre-plan for a year, you have an entire year to get excited and build up and research and all of that. But then also there's something to be said about the instant gratification of let's just go, right? And doing something last minute. Both are equally wonderful and fine.
Is there a downside from cost typically when you plan at the last minute?
I haven't actually seen a huge downside. Now, sometimes in some places, yes, I would actually say that it's more likely that inventory is going to be the issue as opposed to cost. It just might not be available. What you want to do, things might be booked up. But again, like we talked about earlier, there's an infinite number of options. And so usually we can find something for you, even if maybe your first idea wasn't available. But pricing wise, other than flights, I don't really see a massive uptick in price as you get closer to it.
Well, and I think an important point right now, too, is that there are certain changes or restrictions that are coming on with visas and different things like that. So I think having your guidance through that process is going to be especially important.
Absolutely. All the visas, but then there's other things that you don't think about, terms and conditions, the insurance. A lot of people don't get travel insurance, but I don't know that I was really alerted to how important it was until a very good friend of mine, her father had a massive heart attack while on a cruise and out of the country. Well, I don't think people really think through that and what that looks like. How does that look like getting back home and into the country when you need medical error and all of that? So all of those things are, I think, important to have somebody who does it on a regular basis in order to advise and support. Just even things like, does Uber work in Paris? Or how do you tip? What can you drink the water in that country? Can I drive in this country? Should I drive? Even think about Boston. I've got a client going there this summer, and really, there's no parking. It's very difficult. It's like a spaghetti highway, right? And it's just knowing those things ahead of time and having that partner to help guide you through is really important.
Well, and also if you can help with the particulars of a location, if it is hiring a driver, if it is, certain reservations that are going to be very particular, your expertise is going to come into play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you see a lot of people traveling? I think you've mentioned VRBOs and homes, renting places. Do you see that as a big trend these days still?
Yes, absolutely. I think people, especially when it comes to multi-generational trips, a lot of people are traveling with grandparents, kids, and everybody wants to have their own space, right? So I think whether it's through Vrbo or Airbnb, or in my case, when you book with me, it would be through one of our suppliers like Villas of Distinction, right? All of those are, I think, appealing to a lot of people, or groups, right? Friends who, a lot of people are traveling with friends, celebrating birthdays or bachelorettes and all of that now. So yeah, definitely having that extra space is important.
If someone is not going to the traditional hotel, but they're doing these private homes through the RBO or your destination connection, what are some of the things that you could recommend to them that would make the experience better at a private residence that might feel more like a hotel?
Well, first thing that comes to mind is hiring a private chef, because for me, that's one of the benefits of being at a hotel is having that restaurant experience, right? So having somebody who can come in, or even having people who come in who just might buy your groceries and get everything ready and prepped and there, and then you guys can cook together, or having somebody come in who teaches the group how to cook or things like that. So that's definitely one thing that I tend to recommend when they're staying at those types of places. Also, it's going to be pre-planning transportation. So it's when you're at those locations, it's not quite as easy to just grab an Uber or grab a taxi, especially if you're in countries that don't support those types of things. So having those transfers available for the activities that you want to do is incredibly important, which we obviously have access to. And then it's no different than if you were staying at a hotel. It's still finding those activities, those excursions, those, the person who wants the sunset boat ride, right, to Capri and all of that. So still doing that as well.
Awesome. What are people getting wrong when they travel? What do you think is something that you could give some insight into?
Okay, well, I love that you mentioned Expedia and all of those and Costco, et cetera. Trying to save a couple $100. When you book, I don't know that a lot of people know this, when they book through Expedia or those places, booking.com, et cetera, they're resellers. And in the teeny tiny little print down there, it says that it's not guaranteed what they've sold you. So let's say, me as a family of 4, I really want 2 queen beds with a pull-out couch, right? And that's what I think I've booked on Expedia or whatever it may be. Not only can they change your room type, they can actually change your entire hotel to something comparable. And those are things that I don't think people realize. And does it happen all the time? No. A lot of times people travel and they have no issues like that. But there are stories where it does, right? And maybe you wanted this hotel because it had a pool for your kids and the hotel they put you in doesn't, right? So I think that is important to note. Is that couple $100 worth of savings worth not knowing the experience you're going to get? Also, when you arrive, the hotels don't have the same potential for upgrading you, for those additional amenities, things like that, because you didn't book direct. When you book direct, then you do open up those options and those possibilities. That's another thing that I don't think people realize. Okay, yeah, you saved a couple $100, but what did it cost you in the long run?
Well, and for our honeymoon, we were moved to a comparable hotel.
See, so you know.
Yeah.
You've been impacted.
It does happen.
us being young attorneys, well, first off, I was ready to go to sleep because we arrived in Hawaii at 9, 10 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. My lovely wife, and again, we're in law school. So Katie just starts going after these poor people at the desk. We have a contract, we have this, we have that. And there was a thread about a very nasty letter from to the Better Business Bureau that I don't think ever materialized, but they got the message pretty clear.
And we did get moved back to where we were supposed to be. But then
also imagine if you had somebody who could do that for you.
Yes.
And advocate on your behalf, right?
Yes.
That's the benefit of using somebody like myself.
Well, and it comes down to, we were individual people. You have your entire company behind you.
Right.
And they're going to affect that business relationship. And that can make a big difference.
Yeah.
What do you think parents get wrong when they travel with kids?
Not going early enough.
Oh, sure.
Don't wait. You only have 18 years before they're either off to college or off to trade school or off to work. And life gets busy, right? My kids are 11 and 13. And this summer, I was looking at the race schedule, trying to figure out when can we get away. We have one weekend that's not a holiday or a race weekend. And so don't wait, go. There are so many experiences that you can have with your kids, the cultural learning that they can have. Don't wait.
When we're traveling, we look at things, we're like, okay, let's pay for this, let's pay for that. We're just doing it on the websites, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case might be. When someone's not using a travel advisor like you, what do you think is the most common thing they're overpaying for?
I think it's going in high season. Everything is the most expensive. It's the most crowded. So that's where I would recommend people look at those shoulder seasons, save a little bit money. You're going to have a better experience than you would going in high season when you are absolutely overpaying for everything. Every meal is probably higher. Your hotel is more expensive. Your flights are more expensive. Your excursions are more expensive. So yeah, high season. Avoid.
And I agree. And I think also it's just more crowded.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not getting to have that real experience in a place where you're having that connection.
Mm-hmm.
You're surrounded by, crowds. And
shoulder to shoulder, walking through, the Palace of Versailles, and you didn't even really get to see anything.
No, right.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of work with Disney trips, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest changes someone can expect if they haven't been to Disney World, for instance, in the last few years? I mean, what do you think from a travel perspective that they'd be surprised about?
Probably a couple of things. One, Disney continues to grow and grow and grow. It's nearly impossible to do everything in one trip. So I think people who haven't been in a while are going to be a little bit surprised by that. The other thing is the lightning lanes is constantly evolving. So even back when we went, Zav's 13, we went when he was 6 months old, and they were just introducing kind of the Genie Pass, right? And that's from the Fast Pass. So you went from Fast Passes to Genie Pass to lightning lanes. And now you have to pre-book them at Disney World, but Disneyland is different. It's those nuances of knowing all of that that I think is very surprising for a lot of people. And they definitely would need some support there if they haven't been in a while.
When we were there, I turned to Grayson and I said, buddy, I'm sorry. I'm not a Disney mom. I wish I were. And then by the end of the trip, when we were figuring out, well, you have to make it to this reservation or that, he was like, I think you might be turning into a Disney mom. I was like, nope, Miss Jessica is the Disney mom. She's in charge of this.
That's so funny. Good for him.
Let's talk about your business more.
Okay.
When did the idea for Curated Atlas first come about, and what triggered it?
I love that question. So it was Disney. I kind of briefly touched on it. So I mentioned that I had a friend who I was sending tons of clients to her. People would call me about Disney. And of course, I'd be like, all right, give me my coffee, give me my glass of wine, and we'll talk about it. But then I would send them to her. Once I kind of set the stage and like, look, it's not going to cost you anything additional to have the support and the resource of having this person. And I'd say after about a year of that, I actually had to quit my teaching job in order to homeschool my son. So I was home and I was sending her all these clients, and she's the one who said, Jess, you just got to do this. I was like, really? I'm like, but why? Like, we're in the same friend group. You actually know her. We're actually in the same network in the Fox Valley area, right? Why would you want somebody else, like competition, to come in? She's like, but you have to. You know what you're doing. You're good at this. And she encouraged me. And so I did it. And that's kind of one of the things that I love about the Fox Valley area is, right? It's people, there's plenty of business for everyone. Right? Your friends are going to support you. They're going to recommend you, right? And same with her. And when you are on those what's happening pages and somebody's looking for a Disney planner, you're going to see, all the people who pop in and, Jessica, or, this person, or, this other person. And you know what? Makes me happy to see all of those people, right? And I'm so thankful for all those people who make those recommendations for all of us. So it was really her who started it for me. And I did start as just a Disney planner. But me being me, I don't think small. And I was like, well, eventually this could progress into something more than Disney. Who knows? So initially, I actually branded myself Just Travels. And it was justtravels.blog. And I thought, okay, well, maybe it'll be a blog. Maybe it'll be, travel advisory, and maybe beyond Disney. And so I kind of started there. And within 2 weeks of becoming a Disney travel advisor, somebody reached out and said, hey, can you book me a trip on Royal Caribbean? And I was like, see, I knew there was a reason why I didn't go with just Disney, right? And so I think within 3 months, I transitioned to a different company and was then able to sell the world, not just Disney. Fast forward, about, when did I rebrand? Just a few months ago, I feel like, to the Curated Atlas, because over that time, I discovered, no, this really is going to be a travel advisory business. It's not going to be a blog. It's not going to be about me. Really, my whole focus is on my clients, on them. It shouldn't be on me. My name shouldn't be attached to it. And so that's where I did this transition into the Curated Atlas, because that's really what it's about, is about curating the world for my clients and making it tailored for them.
And I agree with you. I think that in our community, and I feel it, I think more with women, being a woman, and building a business, it's that sense that I can support you. It doesn't detract from me, or you can support me. It's cooperation, not competition.
Absolutely.
And that is, I think, really special. And I love that really was your start in this. So how about being an entrepreneur in our community? What do you think is something that you would like to share with our people about that?
Oh, I think do it. If you have an idea, go for it. This community is so supportive, and people are going to be there to encourage, to patronize you, go for it. And you'll be surprised at how many people come out and help you. So on that kind of collaborative aspect, I joined a networking group called Boss Moms, which is a fun name. And there's another luxury travel advisor in there. And she's also a Virtuoso affiliated advisor. And when I made the switch from Disney only to the world, it was a little overwhelming. And I didn't at that time necessarily understand the difference between what Google could do for you or AI could do for you and what I could do for my clients, right? And my company is an independent contractor through a slightly larger organization. There's about 20 of us throughout the US working together. And the owner is amazing. I love her. And she's such a wealth of information and such an amazing resource. But she's on the East Coast. And East Coast is a little bit different than the Midwest or even the West Coast, especially when it comes to value and spend. I feel like people in the Midwest, they want a wonderful experience, but they want a value, right? They're not trying to necessarily outspend, their next door neighbor or keep up with the Joneses. And so that was something that was a little bit hard for me. And so I reached out to this woman who is another travel advisor here in Geneva. She's in Geneva. And she spent an hour on the phone with me, just kind of walking me through and helping me learn. She didn't have to do that. And so I just think being an entrepreneur in this area, there's just so much support. And that's the best part of it. It's a great community.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Now, we do rapid fire, but I'm not quite ready for the rapid fire.
Okay.
I'm actually going to make it a combination rapid fire travel experience.
Okay.
So if you were curating an experience for someone visiting the Fox Valley, say they got a long weekend, where are you having them stay? Where are they eating? What are they doing?
Well, they're staying at the Herrington, because it's just an amazing, beautiful location on the Fox River and walkable to absolutely everything in Geneva. So that's where they're staying. Where are they eating? I got to say Stockholm's, and I love it.
Salmon.
Huh?
The
Yeah.
salmon.
Everything is so good there. But more importantly is the owner is such an amazing community member. He leads the Chamber of Commerce. And so for me, supporting local is so important. And the food on top of it is just amazing. And their patio out back is just adorable. So I love that. So that's where they're staying. That's what they're eating. What was your other question?
What are they doing?
What are they doing?
What sites are they seeing?
Oh, I mean, obviously you're shopping 3rd Street and walking up and down it. So many unique places to go. Same with St. Charles, walking up and down St. Charles, the river, having opportunities on there, taking a bike ride up and down the bike path. We have actually like a lot of historical museums. So we have a Geneva Historical Museum in downtown, but also the Batavia Depot. I don't know if you guys have ever been there.
We did.
And have you?
Yep.
And
we went on a school trip.
Oh, there you
actually.
go.
Mhm.
See? And actually, President Lincoln's wife, Mary, a lot of her old furniture and I can't remember what else is there, but lots of things having to do with her. And her story is at the Batavia Museum. So lots to do.
It's amazing. Some rapid fire questions. Katie, you want to start it off?
All right. How about, well, I think you've already covered it maybe. Favorite restaurant in Geneva?
Stockholm's.
Okay. I'll do the next one then too. How about best kept secret in St. Charles?
Best kept secret in St. Charles. Oh, Townhouse Books and Cafe.
Love.
Right? I love to read, and they just have the best like soups and sandwiches.
And their travel section is shockingly good.
Huh. I'll have to go double check that.
Favorite spot on the river?
Favorite spot on the river. So I'm going to go with where it used to be. It was Millrace Inn. I have so many memories of feeding the ducks growing up here. And there was the carvery, which was down below before the river constantly flooded it. And they would always put their stale bread out. And you could, and I know you're not supposed to feed ducks bread, but they used to do it. And they'd have this big basket out and you could feed the ducks bread. So I love that area, and there's a beautiful park that my kids love going to, River Park up there. I would just love to see that area be developed and become the beautiful place that it once was. So that was my favorite, and I hope it will be my favorite again in the future.
So aside from the depot, how about best kept secret in Batavia?
Water Street Studios.
Oh, yes.
So I used to be on the board there, was president of the board there, and it is just a hidden gem of art and classes. Whether you're young or old, you can do pottery. You can, if you are an artist, they have studios that you can rent and have a place and a community to do your work. They have it open. I think it's second Fridays still that you can go and you can see all the artist studios, and they have lots of fairs and activities, and it's just a great location.
And there's some amazing artists that work out of there as well, right?
Absolutely.
And the art is for sale from time to time?
Absolutely. Yeah. The gallery art is usually for sale. Upstairs where the artists have their studios, many of them will have them open with things for sale. You've got everything from photography to 3D to, painting, just everything you can possibly imagine.
Some beach or mountains?
Beach.
Same.
100%. I'm afraid of heights. Not a mountain girl.
So Jessica, I know we're in a kind of an interesting weekend for your family because you're a racing family, right?
We are, yeah.
So your husband Jan, who's our good friend also, is big into racing, and your son is an aspiring race car driver, right?
That is correct.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
So he is a go-kart racer right now, which is not something that I would ever think that I would let my 13-year-old do. And I think he started when he was 11. And those carts go shockingly fast. But it's actually surprisingly safe, safer than you think it is. And the one thing I would say to anybody who is interested in getting in the racing world is get your kids started young when the carts are smaller and they go slower. We actually held off and didn't put Zav in, like I said, until he was about 11. Well, those go-karts are going on average 55 miles per hour. So that's one way to learn. But hey, I won't have to teach him how to drive when he's 16. So
How fast do his carts go now, 2 years in?
One of them goes in the 70s. It depends on the track because a lot of them are pretty small. And so there's a lot of turns, and that limits it. But on the tracks that have longer straightaways, for example, he was on a longer track last weekend, and he definitely hit the upper 70s when he was on the straightaways.
Okay, so are your eyes open or closed when he's doing this?
A lot of when he's practicing, I'm usually watching. I would say last year I was usually not near the track. I was pacing and praying while he was racing. I kind of had the same two things I constantly would say: keep him safe and keep him happy that he did his best, right? And so I would just keep praying those two things over and over again. Now I feel like he has grown in his racecraft, and I feel a little bit more confident in being able to watch him. I'm not as scared that I know he's going to be able to handle himself in situations and avoid any accidents and things like that. So, yeah.
And where does one go to race karts in the Chicago area?
That's a great question. For us, it's in Joliet at a location called Autobahn. But there are a number of go-kart tracks, not tons in Illinois. There's two that I know of in Illinois. There's Autobahn and then there's Norway. But we've also now this year started travel. So we've been to Newcastle in Indiana. I know there's, I think it's Bozeman, something in Wisconsin, and then Road America in Wisconsin that we'll be going to as well. So you do have to travel a bit in order to do it. But even if you just stay at your home track and you just do member races and the races that they offer, that's super fun and rewarding too.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Jessica, thank you so much for spending the morning with us, not the evening. It's not quite that late, although it is deathly hot outside. It's the 4th of July weekend if anyone's looking at this later. We really appreciate your time and loved getting to know about your business and just kind of touching base with what you're doing. If anyone wants to get a hold of Jessica, how do they get a hold of you, Jessica?
Well, you can get me on my website, which is curatedatlastravel.com, as well as Facebook or Instagram, which is the Curated Atlas. You can find me on both of those.
Jessica, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Have a
Thank
good weekend.
you.
Yep.
You too.
Bye, all.